Now, okay, cool. All right, well, good. Well, I didn't go to LaGuardia High School. I went to a public high school. I grew up on Long Island, but I was very fortunate in the public high school that I went to because there was an art department that was led by a teacher that was just absolutely extraordinary. There were a lot of artists in my neighborhood. There were actually artists in my family as well. So I was very fortunate that I kind of knew, art and I was interested in it. And, to sound arrogant, I was good at it. I could draw. Usually by the time you're 12 is when you discover whether you have the ability, if you even want to continue doing it. That's usually when you find out. So again, I was very fortunate growing up that I was in a high school that encouraged art, and I ended up deciding that I wanted to be a graphic designer when I was 12. I found myself carving Van Halen logos into desks, and I just kind of knew that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And I basically pursued it through high school, went through AP art, and then I ended up going to School of Visual Arts in New York. I was looking at a couple of different schools at the time. I was looking at RISD really more from the Brown perspective. I didn't have the grades. I got in, but there was no financial help at all. I looked at some other design schools like Parsons, an art center out in California, but I just landed on School of Visual Arts because at that time, which I'm going to date myself, was the 80s. They had a really, really, really strong graphic design department, and it was led by people that were working as opposed to just instructors. So it was really more of, why don't you just come to my studio and see what we're doing here, and that's how I'm going to teach you, versus here's the academics of it. That being said, I think the academics are important, and I understand that you guys are getting a good sort of uh, art composition, color theory foundation, which is key, which really helped me when I was a freshman in college. A lot of instructors thought that I had gone to a design school, um, and it was really helpful to do that. So anyhow, so this is what I always wanted to do. Again, very fortunate that I knew, and I started my career actually freelancing at some different locations, and then I worked at record company. You remember those things when they actually used to make vinyl back in the day, which was a lot of fun. It was kind of crazy. And I did that for a few years. And I ended up going back to the School of Visual Arts. I had formed a relationship with the owner of the school, Silas Rhodes, and he became a mentor to me. And he asked me to come back and actually be the creative director for the publications department. So when I was like 25 years old, I was afforded the luxury to be able to basically do all of the promotional work for the school, catalogs, and at that point, actually, websites were just starting to happen. And I got to work with a lot of like legends. And again, I'm totally dating myself here, but like Milton Glazers and Saul Bass, and just all of these design legends, and just being able to work on a small project with all of them. They would just throw these little nuggets of wisdom, which was really uh, confidence building for me. And then I ended up kind of flipping my career after a few years after that and getting into more sort of commercial branding. So it went from doing sort of academic design work, and obviously in an academic environment, to doing much more commercial stuff. So I worked for a design shop called Nick and Paul, and we would do a lot of innovations work for consumer packaged goods and service companies. So what that means is we would basically either we would invent brands for them, and we would invent brands based on research that like a McKinsey and Company would do, or it was other sort of ideas that like a Unilever, they make soaps and they make fragrances and they make all kinds of household products. You know, it was some innovation that they came up with in a lab. So they would come to us and say, well, you know, how do we actually package this thing and how do we market it to the world? And that's really where I sort of got my focus on where I am today as a designer, by really focusing on being strategic. So I consider my point of difference as a quote unquote graphic designer that I am a strategic creative, meaning I'm sort of, yes, I care about how things look and how they execute, but I'm really interested in what is the problem that we're trying to solve? What is the opportunity that there is? And really, how do you just communicate concisely, you know, particularly nowadays, again, and I'm going to date myself, you know, there was print and things are a little bit slower, you know, and right now it seems like everything lives within a 2000 pixel square. And it's like that, you just got to like immediately communicate so much information, almost in an icon, which again, I'm sort of a minimalist at heart anyhow. So that actually works for me. So I dig that. My goal is to try to like distill as much information on the head of a pin so that people can understand it, and also make an emotional connection to it. So you want to kind of tell people what your business is and what the service is or what the product is. But at the same time, you also want them to have an emotional connection and just kind of feel it. So I'm sure that you all have brands that you dig out there that are things that you just like, but there's just like a real emotional connection. So not to say that I'm great at it. I keep trying to do as best as I can. So, you know, I'm actually going to show you some stuff that I've sort of worked on recently and some stuff not so recently. And I'm kind of a little bit all over the board. And Joyce, maybe you can help me out here. So, and maybe it's a poll that I take because I don't want to waste all of your time going through stuff, but I have some work that is, it's very much about mood boards and sort of design strategies to try to bring things to life so that you and the client can really sort of see what's going to happen moving forward and sort of have an objective discussion instead of a subjective discussion about what the brand identity and all of the components look like. So I have some of that work that I want to show you. And then I also have some like design stuff. I just like, here's some design. So I have a little bit of both. So I know it's early for some of you, it's really early. So I don't know if I should start with the big heady strategic stuff, but I don't know.
Well, you know, to let you know what we've been doing, we started, well, last week we talked about mood boards and branding. And then I had them, they had the choice. They could either like do like a personal branding and then where they would like make a mood board about themselves, or they could choose, or they,
oh man.
That's hard. Or they could
Really
like kind of make up a little company. Actually, in some cases, there's a couple of cases where a kid might actually have a company and there's a couple, like they have a company and they're working on sort of branding that actual company. Some of them made it up. So we have all kinds of things. We have like bakeries and like surfwear and some people. So like when I said that they're branding themselves, like I'm thinking of like they're going to make a personal logo and then maybe branding their art, like their art self. You know what I mean? So if we do make a little website, they could think about like how their personality and their brand that they want people to see them as is portrayed in that website and in that logo.
Okay.
So
well, that's hard, man. That's very
don't tell them that, Kurt. Come on now.
But no, actually, I'm going to bring up that point because I think all of you, at least I know you were pointed to my website, which I call the shoemaker with dated shoes. I mean, I think I did that about 5 years ago, and that's definitely sort of a conundrum that people in this industry have. It's like we're working on everybody else's stuff, but we never spend the proper amount of time working on our own stuff. So, you know, I don't think it's bad what I have, but I actually recently hired someone, believe it or not, to help me sort of think through who I am and what my business offering is, because sometimes you're so close to it, you just can't see it. So anyhow, I could totally relate to that.
Okay.
So let me go through. Well, let me go through some mood boards actually.
Okay. Wait, let me just finish really quick. So
Oh, sorry.
they did the mood board. So we definitely want to see how, and I've been going through them, like I've been grading them, and I don't think that I explained it as well as I should have. So I'm excited to see how your process. I think it's going to help them a lot. Like go back to their mood board and make it like even better. And
Okay.
then we talked about this week. We've been talking about logos. So I've been having them address their mood board. Like they made 20 words to describe whatever company that they were gonna create, and now I'm having them take those 20 words and turn them into 20 symbols that we're gonna sort of mash together to make a logo. But I'm excited to hear.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I'm excited to hear your process about those things. Um, yeah, I think actually whatever you can share with us, we would be really, really grateful for. So.
Okay. Okay. Well, let me start with this because I actually found this. This was a project I did a couple of years ago and I completely forgot about it. And it was for a startup that does cryo. Do you guys know what cryo is? It's nitrogen freezing, and basically you dip yourself, like a lot of sports people do it. I think LeBron has one in his house. And basically what it does is it's a wellness treatment, and you go into a tank of nitrogen, liquid nitrogen that's like super freezing, and basically it almost like stops your heart for like 3 seconds. But the whole point of it is that it constricts your blood vessels and basically it like detoxes you within like a minute. It's insane. So anyhow, there was a client who wanted to open up a chain of these cryo spas. So I work with a spa consultant who helps them develop business models and, you know, make the money work and all that stuff. But basically they came to us and said, yeah, that's what we want to do. That's it. That's all they gave us. And so it was up to us to kind of take that blank slate and actually turn it into something from nothing, which was kind of cool. So let me open this up and then share my screen. All right. You guys all seeing that?
Yeah.
Okay. Here, let me actually just make it full. Okay. You with me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the way I do mood boards, I use images and I use words. It gives you the latitude to really communicate stuff. So the thought here was what, you know, I just mentioned that you're dipping your body into a container of liquid nitrogen. Pretty freaking scary, that's for sure. So it's like, well, how do we make that technology feel a little bit safer? So, you know, we go out in the world, and this is what I often do is I look for referential stuff that's already out in the world. So this way you can sort of like wrap your heads around what it could be and what it could look like. So, you know, as you can see, it's like, you know, Apple wearable technology. What's that? I mean, that is definitely something new, isn't it? It's like when did prosthetics become cool? You know, so we've reached that point, I think, as human beings. Hence, the point is their technology and basically marrying it with the body is becoming more and more acceptable, and it's actually kind of cool. So okay, cool. Well, let's embrace that part. So that was one facet of the brand. Then the other thing was about sort of Scandinavian therapies, which are you do a cool ice cold plunge and then you go into a sauna. Again, the purpose is that it actually changes your heart rate and stuff like that. So again, these are, you know, tried and true, and people are really comfortable with these things. But you know, it's really kind of cozy. So you have like 2 parts to this brand now. One is about this sort of wearable, sort of hyper technology that almost merges with your body. And then you have these sort of really, I would say, almost ancient Nordic elemental therapies. So far, what we've done is we've taken a scary technology and actually we've made it seem kind of cool, and also sort of nostalgic and familiar. But at the same time, it feels really modern. So that was the second component to the brand. And then the last component to the brand is, like I said, they wanted to make it almost like a gym. So it is a ritual that you go there once a week and you basically go and do your cryo spa. So again, looking at brands that are about rituals and things that you do, you're going to spinning classes, pre-pandemic, we used to do this a lot. Just again, making the brand feel very sort of modern at the beginning of what I just showed you, but also like every day, So if we can get those three things communicated in the brand, that it's this like sort of hyper cool technology that's based on, ancient Nordic elemental therapies that work. And it feels really sort of everyday. And I really love this image because it's every day, but slightly in the future, right? So is everybody tracking with what I've just showed you, or is it heady? Yeah, I'll take that as thumbs. Okay, great. So this is the brand, the design board. So those are the strategy boards. So this is the design board, and this is what we're telling the client. This is what it should look like. It's what the logo should look like. It's what the space should look like. It's what the equipment should look like. Even down to, you should get really cool like slippers and robes that are proprietary, that are just cool. So again, I'm writing copy for the strategy here and for how the thing should look. I'm going to read it really quickly. The look and feel, it should be natural, laxed, organic, and loft-like. Bring outside materials in. But you should also do like really like oversized wall-size video scenes of just like really cool stuff. So it feels like natural, but it also feels like the future at the same time. So it should also feel sort of cold and sanitary, but at the same time, it should be soft and warm. And I think pops of color and like fun and just sort of unexpected stuff. So again, I can't read the room right now, but the client was super, super happy with, oh my God, you basically took this boring object and like made like this really cool thing. It looks great, but how does that actually come to life? Well, I'll show you. So we did names, okay? That was the first thing. So we went through, so normally what I'll do is I'll give a long list of names and a short list of names. So we kind of took some buckets and it's like, well, let's like use temperature as a starting point. That are kind of cool and proprietary. The other thing with naming is you often want to name something that you could actually get trademarked, which is really, really difficult because there's so many names out there these days. So this is based on temperature. Then, okay, well, let's focus on the technology. 216 degrees. I believe that was like the nitrogen Fahrenheit point was, whatever. Again, long story short, this stuff, it just seems cool, okay? But it's also relevant. And then there was, let's take that whole Nordic vibe and try to bring that into it as well. So the client ended up picking two names to go with. Sorry, oops. I could have queued this up better. So here's the logo exercise. So that's the branding exercise. So that's like the client should know what to expect creatively now because we have something to hold it up against. So what I like to do is when I start designing stuff, to be able to hold it against those mood boards and say, does this fit well here? Does this live here? Is it too much in this board and not enough in the other board? So this was on my long list of names, but they really liked it a lot because it was literal, as in hot, cold, get it? So this is a typical presentation that I'll give to a client for logos. And again, while I'm designing this stuff, I want it to feel sort of clean. There's an aesthetic that I've already established with the mood boards. So again, the client isn't going to be asking for some fanciful thing. And if they are, I can shut them down immediately and say, well, you're off strategy. So doing good mood boards at the beginning of exercises, at least for me, it really helps sort of contain the project with the client so that, you know, there's objective and there's subjective. And I design objectively. That being said, you know, especially for startups, I do try to allow the subjective to creep in, because if a client loves orange and, you know, a solution could be red or it could be orange, you know, I go orange every time. Why wouldn't you? Anyhow, so more logos, more logos. So that was HOCO, and then we did climate.
Are you frozen?
Is he frozen?
He's frozen.
Is
Kurt,
he-
you're frozen.
No, God.
What happened? Oh no.
Mr. Hauser's gone.
Oh man. This is exactly what we're studying, you guys.
Yeah.
Right?
I like the climate one on the right.
I know.
Oh.
Kurt, are you there?
Oh,
Maybe he
bye,
had to
Kurt.
sign out. Maybe he'll come back.
Uh-oh.
I'm not worried. This is
All right.
he'll be back. But seriously, like I talked to him about what we were doing, and it's so exciting that he is like doing exactly like what we're like. He's so supporting what we're doing. In fact, in the morning class, there were a lot of students who have their business and their mood board, but they don't have a name for it. And like, I think it's so interesting that he's talking about the, you know, like the client didn't necessarily have the name of the business yet. And so they made this whole list of possible names. So that's a good exercise to do for those of you who don't have a name for your company, you know. Oh, I expected him to come back sooner. Where is he? Kurt, come back.
Hi everyone.
Hi, Miss Park.
Hey, oh my God, Spencer, your hair is so long.
I know, it really grows fast.
Wow. Wow.
At first.
Oh my
Well-
God. Yeah, I almost didn't recognize you. And then I was like, that is Spencer.
He
How
goes,
are you?
he goes by my lordship, FYI.
I put that there. I can't change it anymore. Beginning of the year. It was a joke and it's just stuck.
Oh, my goodness.
In this park.
My kids, let's go meet back in my classroom, and I'm still broadcasting this visit. So let's come back to my classroom just so that I don't have to interrupt the class later. Could just use our regular classroom link, and then we'll watch the rest of this there.
Okay.
Spencer, miss you.
Miss you too. Bye, Miss Park.
See you later.
See you later. Okay, he's
Thank you,
back.
Miss Riley. We're gonna just watch it from, like, I'm doing this really goofy thing where I play the Zoom. I play your Zoom from my phone, and then I put my phone in front of my camera.
Oh,
So like my kids are still in class, but they are seeing your screen where my face would be. It's anyway, whatever. Technology, figuring it out.
Yeah, the technology, right? I'm like,
Oh,
what?
right.
I'm like, is it Acrobat that made it explode? My internet just completely dropped.
oh,
So anyhow, but now I'm tethered to the phone, so that should do the trick, at least for a little while. Anyhow, I felt like I was boring anyhow, so it was just time to go.
no, actually,
right.
I was telling them after you froze, first you froze for a while and then you left. So,
Okay.
I mean, anyway, while you were frozen, I was telling my students that, you know, what you're talking about is exactly what we're doing. In fact, like a lot of the, or a good handful of students don't have like a name for their company. And like according to your presentation, that client also didn't really know what the name of their company was going to be.
Not at all.
And I
Not
didn't
at
really
all.
think about it, but that's like a thing where they don't have a name yet.
Yeah. Yeah. All
So,
right. Well, if that's the case, well, then I'll show you another one that's sort of in a different category entirely. That also didn't have a name
okay.
in the same exercise, and it might even be a little bit more on the ground. So let me just try to open up this PDF really quickly, and I'm just going to show you this last bit. So anyhow, so what this ended up being was they ended up picking the name Hoko. That's what they wanted to go with. And what this resulted in was us creating a pitch deck. Do you guys know what a pitch deck is? It's a pitch deck is, hey, I have this concept of this business that I want to start. And I probably need about like, I don't know, maybe $5 to $10 million to get this thing off the ground. So this is the document that we created for them to go out to private investors in order to do that. And again, to make this personal for me, I do a lot of startups, so I have experience doing this stuff. It's a lot of fun to be able to do it, because when you work for large companies, there's often a lot of people involved and like try to touch everything and they try to mess it up. So like in this case, this is pretty rare that, you know, I'm working with this woman who is a business person who was hired to do this. You know, I'm working directly with the client and maybe there's 2 decision makers, but basically it's a party of 4 and they're all looking at me like, okay, tell me what to do. I mean, there's definitely some back and forth and some discrepancies and maybe some disagreements, but it's all good. So anyhow, well, let me share my screen and hopefully it won't explode again. Whoops, am I sharing the right screen? You see Hoko?
No, we
Oh, I
see.
shared the wrong screen. Sorry. I have 3 screens, just FYI. I like to work that way.
3 screens or 3 monitors?
I have 2 monitors in my laptop.
Wow.
That's what I do all day. Very lucky. So, all right, do you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the logo that they ended up doing. You know, and just like found some cool stock photography that sort of speaks to it. It's just like, ooh, okay, there's a good vibe right there. So this is Hoko, cryo and infrared therapy. That's what it is. That's what they ended up doing. So we talk about this, right? It's cryo and it's this infrared sauna stuff going on. Talk about what it is. They talk about the menu of services. They put some price points on it. So we show the investors how we got to the brand so that they understand why we did what we did. So they're not like, I don't get it, or why don't you do this? It shows them that we actually paid attention and like we thought long and hard and went through a proper process, you know, and then give them look and feel. So this is really, you know, this is what they're buying. I mean, this is what they're spending $10 million on. I mean, well, that's not true. They're they're spending it on this, but you know, they're spending it on this, that they believe that this is going to succeed. And then we just give them a little bit of identity and that's it. So so that's a project. So let me actually open up another project that is also mood board based. And it was done a little bit differently. Actually, yeah. So this was for a San Francisco based skincare service and product. Sorry, it's at the bottom of this presentation, forgive me. So it was skincare. She is a registered nurse, a lot of Botox treatments and laser therapies. Again, I'm sure most of you are familiar with some of that stuff. Well, it's an industry and it's like an offshoot of spa. And it's basically facial care. And there's a lot of technology now that you can do. And it's not even just face, it's body as well. But basically she specializes in face. So long story short, she had a practice that was doing quite well, but she wanted to actually put it into a retail space. And she also wanted to develop some product to go with it. So it was called Ageless Beauty. And it was like the most horrible, ugly thing you've ever seen in your life. But she didn't care because she was a registered nurse. It was a totally different thing. So we articulated the problem, right? So we had to find out what the business was about, what her opportunities were, blah, blah, blah. So we broke it into thirds again. I like threes. I think threes seem to usually work. So medical. So there was definitely a medical component of what she was doing because she would definitely get in there with knives and injectables and stuff like that. So medical. These were logos that fell off of sort of medical and names that fell off of medical. This was definitely a truncated project, so we kind of just did it quickly. Back to that sort of approachable technology again, same thing. So, but different. If the other one was like really immersive technology that like you can merge with a human being and make a cyborg, this is a little bit lighter than that. It's kind of like, yeah, I put some stuff on my face and I'm okay with some technology being part of my beauty routine. So these were sort of light tech logo solutions. And then there was just beauty for beauty's sake. So when I really like this and this, this is a brand, I don't even know if it exists anymore, but this came straight from the client. She's like, oh, I love that. So Fresh does like soaps and cleansers and just, it's very sort of Bergdorf Goodman. And that's an Hermes box, which is classic. So, and maybe this will resonate with you or maybe some of it won't, but to find, I use the Hermes box in probably almost every presentation because it's like a Tiffany's box as well. It's just so iconic and so classic. It says so much and it's a really high benchmark. It's like, yeah, okay, that feels like an Hermes box. That's always a good thing to do. So anyhow, and then these were names and logos that fell off of that. So are we getting connective tissue here? So I'm like looking at these logos and I'm looking at that board. I'm like, yep, those could fit together, you know?
Kurt,
Yeah, those fit.
I'm so sorry. What's an Hermes box? I don't even, sorry.
Who wants to tell her? Hermes, it's a French brand. It's Hermes. It's like Louis Vuitton or Gucci, except it's Hermes, and it's like it's a classic. It's the $150. It's the $250 scarf.
Let's see.
That Deborah Birx wears all the time.
So,
It's those fancy scarves. That's what that is. It's the 200. Look at the scarf in there. That's what it is. It's the $250 scarf box. It's kind of like a Tiffany ring. So it's another version of Tiffany. It's a little bit more bespoke than Tiffany.
So
Exactly why I chose that instead of Tiffany. Because
right.
everybody knows Tiffany. Not everybody knows Hermes. It's a little bit more
Oh.
luxurious.
So they have their own brand. They've got their whole own thing.
Hermes? Oh gosh, Hermes 1852 France, you know, or actually it's older than that. It's like 1752, whatever. It's again, it's an icon of luxury, which is the reference.
It's just so interesting that like they have their own brand and they have their own whole thing going on. And then you're using that to piggyback off on this brand.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
amazing. Like we have to think about that as we're like approaching our own work, right?
I wrote down a note and I think, again, what I learned at the branding agency that I was at, that it really helps. It's just really, at least again, for me, I find it really helpful to be referential. You keep
Yeah.
saying something until you're putting it in the words of your client,
Uh-huh.
or your customer, consumer. It's like, yeah, okay, I get that, right. I understand that. So, instead of inventing something from nowhere, there's so many other reference points that you could point out that just bring it to life and illustrate the point. So
Yeah.
again, it's like I look at this board and I go, yeah, I get a vibe from that, and also there's words in there as well. Treasured, inviting and sophisticated and elegant, right? Those are words, but it's like, well, what do you mean by that? It can kind of go in different places, but now I'm showing these visuals that go with it. And the client's like, yeah, that feels good. And a lot of times they'll actually be like, yeah, I don't like that image. That feels a little too, too upscale for me, or something like that. So again, it's like I'm allowing the non-visual client to be visual and communicate to me visually without them having to tell me what to do. Because that's the last thing you want, in my mind, is I tell clients, you can give me direction, but don't art direct, because it's not what you do, it's what I do. It's like, tell me you don't like the color. Don't tell me what color to use unless you can really tell me why. I don't want to, that's what I do. That's what you pay me to do. And that's not out of arrogance. That's just out of reality. It's like, I'm an expert and you're not. So that being said, I also go back to, the client, this client in particular, she loved orange. And I'm like, cool. Okay. No wonder why you're responding to the Hermes thing. I get it.
Right.
So anyhow, so we went through this exercise. These are sort of the three facets of the brand. And she was such a wonderful client. She's like, I love it. Okay, great. I don't know. What do you think we should do? Well, this is what she ended up doing, which I thought was a really good choice, because it really was, well, what a clever name. How did that come about? Skinworks, it was just, again, part of the sort of strategy process of naming stuff. And as I was laying it out, I'm like, oh, hey, I'm going to make the word works a different color and make it one word, right? So I could break it up. And then I'm like, oh my God, that works really well. That was so not intentional. That was just a discovery. And I also have that quite a bit, my process, the way I design, I leave it open so that you can discover stuff like that. So, is it the most clever thing in the world? No, but does it work? Absolutely. And the fact that it wasn't trademarked was just mind blowing to me. I'm like, okay, that's great. So anyhow, so this was the design board, okay, that we had developed for the client. So then they had space in San Francisco, so they had to build out the space. So in this case, I work with the architects, work with the interior designers, work with sign vendors, actually give sign vendors stuff to do. And then we do collateral and graphics. So this was a deliverable, was a color palette, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with that sort of stuff. And then we did some, I like especially for these types of clients, to give them series of patterns, because they're just fun to do. And again, it kind of helps you explore, make that into a wall. It's kind of great, actually. So did a bunch of patterns. And then prototype shopping bags, tissue paper, more shopping bags, more tissue paper, gift cards, more gift cards, more gift cards still. Options, ribbon. So this is the rendering from the architect. So something with retail is there's like zoning laws for signage and stuff. You can only do a certain amount of things. You can't do flags and whatever. So this was pretty limited. So I work with the architect, and like, this is kind of what we came up with. This was the schema. So that's what ended up happening. So like this right here, this kind of stuff drives me batty. I'm like, oh, couldn't we make a protruding sign? I wanted to actually make a, what the hell is it called? Basically something that sticks out so that you could see it, because it's really crammed in here. And they have this awning that, anyhow, whatever. So that's what ended up happening. And that was the interior. So it's really fun when you can actually sort of render something or have it rendered and then actually see it come to life. I mean, doesn't that look like it came out of the mood board or what? Isn't that crazy? Right? That's like straight out of the mood board. What is that? What is that?
I have to say the orange is everything. It's so
Yeah,
good.
it is. It is. Well, there was also purple just to make things pop, but
Yeah.
yeah. So that was her product. So that was her product was orange. Other people's product was purple.
Perfect.
You know, down to like the little things, you know, it's like what works, you know, all that kind of little stuff. Right. And then there's always a digital component to it. And interestingly enough, so this woman has now, she's evolved her brand and now she's just doing, because of COVID, she shut it down and she was tired of running the store. So now she's just doing the product and retail. So she kind of twisted it and now she has this thing called Skin Codes, which is she's basically doing a questionnaire for people and then bundling a package of product for them.
Oh.
So yeah, so let me actually, I want to actually show you this if I can do that. Unless you want to see more logos.
I would like to see some logos, and then I also I gave the students an assignment to write a question for you, and some of the
Okay,
questions are
then
really good.
I'm totally down with that.
Could you show us just a few logos though, because we are working on that, and like maybe a big question is like when you're making a logo, like what's your process? Like how do you brainstorm ideas? And
Okay. Here, let me
I also like like for me, a couple of really good things that I've learned today so far is like in their mood boards to put other brands that they want to be associated with. Like for some, I didn't teach that part of it, and I recognize like how important that is. So thank you for that.
Sure. It can also be dangerous because sometimes you might be like, because a lot of brands have a loaded, it might mean one, good brands mean multiple things to different people, right? So you should be cautious about brands that you put in though. Because again, like the Hermes as an example, that really means one thing for the most part. It's like luxury beauty retail. That's what that is. I mean, to the point that it's an iconic box, just like a Tiffany's box.
Right.
But there are other brands that might be loaded with other sort of meaning that you don't mean. So just be sure you're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Okay, so
The other thing though that like I didn't think about that we are going to get into later is like I am digging these textures and patterns that you put, like you gave the client like all these different designs and then you're using it for the tissue paper and on the website, and so beautiful. It's like such a
yeah, well,
touch.
thank you. I mean, and that's really the fun part. It's like, well, then just go and play with it. And, you know, a lot of sort of corporate identity programs, it's like they'll design the logo and then they'll make all these rigid rules for it. And I find that really, really difficult to do because you kind of need to apply it and play with it and see where it can go before you like apply rules to it. It's like, I don't know what the rules are yet. I haven't even done it. So and again, maybe it's a little bit unconventional, but this is definitely the way I work. And well, and to that end, I'm going to show you a project that I did. This was a while ago. It's a hotel in the city on 44th and 8th, 9th, 6th, 9th, the Chatwell. It's a very, very hoity-toity boutique hotel. So the brand was already given to me because they hired this like $5 million architect to do all this stuff. Very, very global famous, very intimidating. And I went to his office and he briefed me on what I should be doing. So, which was awesome because I mean, the guy's just like, again, a legend. So my old SVA experience came in handy dealing with these design legends. I knew how to compose myself and not be starstruck and just like listen and actually talk to him instead of just listening. So this hotel was based on like 30s Paris kind of vibe. And so look, there's Hermes again. What do you know about that? I'm telling you, it works, right? It's like iconic luxury, man. That's all the clients in this hotel. They all have Hermes scarves, right? So, but this was kind of the vibe, and this was not for the client. This was for in my office to brief the designers so that we all kind of had a headspace. And as a designer, these are like the best kind of projects. It's like, oh, good. It's an era, right? So the process to go do the logo for this, go look at a lot of books, really, of the era, just like Cavassier and just like 30s Art Deco, and just look at all the stuff. And I want to bring up the point of copying versus being inspired by. I have this saying, design eats design. Actually, it's not my saying. I heard it from somebody. Meaning everything that you see out there has probably been done already or has been inspired by something. So I think there's a lot of sort of desire to like, I must be unique all the time. And it's like, I mean, don't copy. But again, it's just like, but don't worry about being inspired by something. And I go back to being sort of referential in the mood boards. It's like, that's the visual language that people understand already. So, you know, we're psychologists in a sense as communicators. It's like, we want to communicate to people, you know, like really quickly. So how do you do that? It's like sort of visuals that sort of spark memories and emotions, right? So anyhow, in this case, high-end 30s hotel. So this is the presentation that we gave to the client. I'm afraid to hit Command L if I explode it again. Well, let's try. You're still there? Okay, good. It didn't explode this time. That's awesome. So in this case, I gave them 5 logo designs. This is just pure just typography of the day. And it's just, it feels like, that feels familiar. One of the biggest thing that stuck out from this world famous architect was his suggestion, his requirement was, I want you to design it so that it feels unique, but I want it to feel familiar. Like I've seen that before. That's what it should feel like. Which was, I thought, just a great sort of direction to give. So hence, that doesn't exist, but it feels like it does. So subtle typography is a hard sell to clients. It's sophisticated, but then you apply it to stuff. So these are in-room binders for services and menus. Give them a nice color palette. You know, it's like, okay, I'm already getting a vibe from that for sure. Matches was definitely like a thing for this because it's just speaks of that era. And key cards. So those are the things that I did. It was in-room menus, key cards, and matches. So show them typography, color, blah, blah, blah. So there's a little theme going on, which again, I pulled that pattern straight from the mood board. This guy, there was a sculpture that I found. Again, there's strategy behind all this stuff because there was a lot of this iconic sort of Greek mythology worship back in the 30s, and there were like really cool sculptures and stuff like that. So that's where that came about. So these are on crushed velvet, you know, stamped silver on crushed velvet. It's just like, ooh, how luxe is that? I mean, so again, not to get too excited, but that's the Hermes box. That's exactly what that is, you know? And again, the client's just like, got it, totally got it. Makes them happy. Make this more metal.
Ooh, you're
Leather.
changing the fonts in there,
Feel.
the A's.
Say that again.
You change the fonts up a little bit with those A's.
Oh, these are all different fonts, So again, this font, Pino, is classic of its era. This one, classic of its era. Well, I guess you could say it's classic of its era, but yeah, different fonts. So normally I will start with a font and then I will start to tweak it.
Okay.
It's a really different font.
It's like very.
All right, I'm gonna get back to this one in a second. I mean, it's a hit or miss thing, but this was definitely like full, all in Art Deco. It's just fun.
Really fun.
And then you always give them one to kill. You got to beat on your own work. You should always be able to self-criticize, because then you're both looking at it. You and the client are looking at it from the same lens. If you have enough humility to say, I think it's good, but it's not right, and you're showing them diligence, that's the job, because sometimes you do need to go down paths that we all think will be a good path. And then you actually design it and you're like, nah, let's not, So anyhow, so this is like an ideal type of project for me. That dried up a while ago, the luxury marketing thing in spas. I used to do a ton of spas. And that sort of dried up in the last recession. So I also have this consumer packaged goods background. I do a lot of packaging for food and stuff like that. So I said to myself, what are you going to do the next time there's a recession? What are you going to be doing? So I started to switch my energies going more towards food packaging. And that's pretty much what I've been doing now. That being said, I still do a little bit of this kind of stuff. But it's really more and more about sort of food packaging at this point. So, and if I have time, I can show you a really quick mood board and then really quick pack design that came off of that. Does that work or no? Am I done? Oh gosh, I'm done.
Well, it's
Yeah, it's
I mean, I have all day. I could listen to you all day, Kurt. Do you have time? I don't want to infringe.
It'll take 2 minutes, but again, I think if I'm using the theme of mood boards and how mood boards and being referential can be helpful in creating and presenting design.
Okay, yeah, show us. I want to see.
Okay, so this is an existing client called Raimundo's. They do basically puddings. And it's kind of like a Mexican heritage brand, and they want to evolve and move from Walmart, and they want to become more of a mass premium brand. So I basically went to the store and looked at some stuff. So first board, hey, this is sort of like ethnic stuff, as in this is Cuban, this is sort of Mexican, Italian. And again, it's not like I got these from, an Asian store. This is mass, okay? So this is the mass interpretation of ethnic. Do we want to live there? Then there's like this sort of mass comfort, because again, it's like puddings and desserts. It's like, I just want to feel comfortable and good. So on one hand, it's like you have these classics. It's like, yep, this is all safe, and then you have this like, it is what it is. We're just like the local brand, that's that. And then you have this premium indulgent stuff, which again, it's mass. So Haagen-Dazs, really, is that really premium? I don't think so. But again, I think you guys all get the point. This is not Hermes ice cream. This is mass ice cream. Okay. And then lastly, there is this category that I invented called Innovation Light. It's like all of these products that are starting to create a new thing. Icelandic yogurt, French ice cream based in Brooklyn, CBD seltzer water, just antioxidant drinks in general, which is not that new anymore, but it was new at a certain time. Half and half, made from coconut cream and almond milk, brownie in a cup. So these are not like new categories, but they kind of are. It's like sort of Innovation Light. So the Raimundo's people, they wanted to launch a cheesecake in a cup. That's what they want to do. And that's how they want to sort of restart their brand. And I'm trying to bring it back to okay, so here's what we have. Take number one. Let's call it something. Call them cake cups. This feels like a little bit of innovation light and a little bit of the heritage brand, but not necessarily premium. Okay, this feels a lot more modern. It is what it is. It's like just show the product in a cup, and be bold with your type, and call it cake cups and scream it. Really bad. I hate it. But again, this is doing diligence so that we could show it to client, show it to consumers to see if this direction works. This is the premium version of it all. And then this is the I am local, I am believable. My suggestion to them would be to actually put these in glass jars and sell it for $6. So again, I go back to the mood boards that I showed you. That gave me sort of permission to go off into these different directions. This was based on what the client had provided to me in a verbal brief. And again, the client's like, got it, great, let's go test it. That's it.
That's it. I was actually going to ask you, like, the first presentations were all very like luxury places or businesses. And so I was wondering, like, one of the questions that one of the students had was like, how do you decide who you work with? And yeah, actually, I'm going to let them ask you some questions because they had some great questions.
All right, I'm all ears.
I'm just going to let you guys, like, I don't know if it's helpful to like raise your hand or just unmute yourself and ask the question to Mr. Hauser. I think it would be really great. Oh, looks like Nate has, so many hands are up. All right, Nate and then Spencer and then, yeah.
Okay.
Start there.
I was wondering what software you use to like design stuff, like Adobe Illustrator or.
I use Adobe Creative Suite. I live pretty much in Illustrator and Photoshop. I do some InDesign stuff as well, and obviously Acrobat. But yeah, I do most of my stuff in Illustrator.
Okay, thanks.
Did I just unmute?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I was wondering, you mentioned this today, and it was also on your profile. So I know you went to SVA. So how does your experience and getting your degree there help you enhance your work? What kind of skills did it give you? And do you think that you could have gotten to this point without going to college?
Wow. Okay, that's a big question. The simple answer is it was great because I was being taught at school by people that were working. And we interned for them while we were in school and then after school. So did I need the actual piece of paper that said I graduated? No. Did I need the portfolio of work that came out of it? Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, to this day, it's still, again, at the time, it was a great choice for me. I learned so much there. My freshman year, the way it was set up, we were all forced to take 6-hour painting class, 6-hour drawing class, and also to be mixed with different majors, cartoonists, fine artists, illustrators. So yeah, it was fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Olivia, you have a question?
Yeah, I guess I was wondering how you established yourself as a designer, because I feel like it's hard to establish yourself and have yourself known so people want to go to you to do the branding?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great question, Olivia. And that's actually what I'm grappling with right now, to tell you the truth. My whole business has been word of mouth, which is a bad way to sort of do business, I think, because you find yourself, at least I find myself now, that I'm trying to reinvent myself and clarify my message about what my value is so I can go back out and get the clients, only the clients that I want. So to answer your question of how did I establish myself, I worked my ass off, and I would stay just, I mean, and that's what we would all do. We would work until like 4 a.m. and just like, we just wanted to get better. We just loved doing it, and, we worked at studios where you were working on amazing stuff. My wife, I met at SVA. She had worked in Hot Shot Studios, and we would all just go hang out in her studio and just like work on Pottery Barn logos and stuff, or Williams Sonoma packaging for free because we could. So, and then we would just get connections to people. So once you go to school and then you start to get some freelance stuff and you're good, you just start making connections, and it becomes sort of a tighter world. So as a start out, that's what I would suggest, is definitely make yourself available, and just try to make yourself better.
Awesome. Thank you. Chris, you have a question?
Yeah, I do. I just wanted to know, like, so graphic design, as far as I understand, is a very, very competitive industry. And I just wanted you to know, I'm sorry, I just wanted to know, like, what inspired you to start designing and what allowed you to compete, so to speak, and make it in a very, very competitive environment?
Well, that's again, a great, it is really competitive. And I don't want to sound condescending or mean, but this is actually something I've been working with that consultant that I mentioned earlier that I'm working with right now to repackage my message. There's so much mediocrity out there. There's high mediocrity out there. So right there, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of competition, but don't worry, Christopher, they're not all that good. And again, and I think if you have some kind of ability, and if you have a leg up, and I would argue everybody on this call has a leg up because of where we are right now. I mean, you're going to this fantastic school and you're learning this stuff, which I would argue 98% of the population in this country does not. So you've already got a strong start right there. And, I think just really sort of have confidence in yourself. And I go back to my response to Olivia is like, if you're into it, and you just really enjoy doing it, you're going to find like the beginning of your career, that's like what you do. I have some people that freelance for me, and, some of them are like 23, and this guy's name is Austin, and he's just like, yeah, don't worry about it. I'm not going to charge you. I'm just going to do it all night. So he's just like really, well, because it's an opportunity to work on like a package that's going to be on a shelf in the real world. And he's like into it, or, it's just some other fun thing. So I think when you really, if you have some skill, and you really enjoy what you're doing, and again, and I have a sort of a certain bias with my perspective of how I feel like I've succeeded. And I keep going back to it, is that, I'm a strategic designer. I really think about what it is that I'm trying to communicate and try to get on board. And I'm a solutionist, a problem solver. So even if you're not the best illustrator or photographer, or you just suck at type, I think if you're still like a good problem solver, you will find a way around any weaknesses you have, which is, I think, the great thing about graphic design is that, I think there's just an eye, composition, and again, the basics, the stuff that you guys are learning in this class. When you have that down, again, you have a leg up. So I don't want to totally make your parents mad at me for saying, you should go for it. That's your career. But you should go for it. That's your career. Again, I was totally encouraged from my parents. But I wouldn't, I just, I wake up every day and I'm going, boy, am I lucky. Because I just love what I do. Even when I hate it, I love it, So if you have that, then it's all good.
Awesome. Thank you. Is there anybody else that has a question?
Yeah, thank you, by the way.
You're very welcome.
Kira, you have a question?
Yeah, I guess like, what are some things that a person going into your field should like know or learn? Like, I know like maybe like engineering or technology skills that you might need.
Well, so going into it now versus when I went into it was a very different universe. But I will give you the analogy. When I first started out, I'm really dating myself. Desktop publishing was starting to happen. So I was literally at the edge in college of doing stuff by hand. I don't know if you know what a waxer is and cutting stuff out. And actually you do, you guys paste stuff together, right? Which is awesome, by the way, Ms. Riley. I think that's a good thing. But I also learned to, typeset stuff and start to design on the computer. So I would think you starting out should really be aware of really digital behavior, of motion graphics, and just how things work in the screen plane versus physical. Again, this is, again, I'm sorry, I'm talking about me again, but I'm not that comfortable in that world. When I do something good, I'm like, oh, I did it. But, this is also why I'm kind of defaulting back to packaging, because I can wrap my head around that. But I think, having the basic foundation that you're learning here, for sure. I think understanding typography and color theory and just basic art composition is key. And you should be totally abreast of the tools of the trade that are happening. And again, and I go back to sort of, is it web graphics, or is it film video, or is it something that doesn't quite exist yet that is in the AR realm? For me right now, I'm trying to focus my sort of abilities to make things work in a 2000 pixel square, which again, I can do that with Adobe Creative Suite. That's pretty much enough. And if there is sort of like some animation that needs to occur, I don't do it. I hire that out because I'm not that good at it. I'm not good at it at all, actually. So I'm trying to give you the clean answer. You should be aware of the latest stuff that's going on and basically the different mediums in which people view stuff, and whatever tools help you succeed in that, you should be aware of. And if you feel the desire, do it. I have a colleague of mine, that's all he does is he just goes down rabbit holes on like how to execute stuff. And he's lost. He's totally not working. He's just lost because it's all about executing stuff. And it's like, he doesn't even realize what he's doing. Did that help at all? Or did I just confuse you?
The last designer, we had a designer talk to us on Tuesday as well. And he said that one thing that he really recommends is to take a business class, like even business 101. Do you think that would be like a really helpful thing as a designer?
Oh my I thought that went without saying. No. I think being aware of, no, I think you should definitely be aware of, because it's offensive to business owners when you don't have any idea what their business is, yet they're paying you all this money, hopefully, to communicate their business. How dare you? So no. Actually, you bring up a really good point. I would actually, because I would sit in meetings with, a lot of, Ivy League grads, that were sitting around and they're like 27-year-old MBAs trying to show me how smart they are. So, you know what? Yeah, to have a little bit of backup. And again, I'm like, I went to art school. but it doesn't matter because I'm not dumb, you know, and I understand what they're doing. And again, I think I have a skill that they don't, which is why I'm sitting at the table in the first place. But I'm also just a curious individual, and I do understand business because I just read about it and I'm curious about it, and now I have lifelong experience of
Right.
that. So
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. That's awesome. Does anybody else have any questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
So do you recommend minimalism like when you're creating like mood boards and stuff like that when presenting to your clients, or like do they request and then you base something off what they ask?
So I didn't understand the first part. Could you repeat the first part
So
again?
do you, when you're creating, are you very minimalistic, or like if your client asks for a lot, do you like?
Oh, I get what you're saying. Well, you know, usually a client will hire me for, they'll see work that I've done, and I consider myself a design chameleon. But I definitely have an aesthetic, and I believe in minimalism. So no, the client doesn't ask for that per se. I just sort of, again, just try to communicate on the head of a pen and make it really crisp and telegraphic, hence telegraphic brands. So, and, you know, I have, you know, been fired from a couple of jobs, or just we've parted ways because I'm like, I'm just not the right guy. And I've gotten to the point in my career where it's just like, I know, you know, I'll have just initial discussions with clients, and it's just like, you know, nah, I'm not going to be able to provide what I think you're looking for, you know, you should go somewhere else.
Awesome. Anybody else?
I have a question. Like straight out of school, did you go to an agency or did you go to like a brand first? Because I know a bunch of graphic designers who work at like a certain brand and they do just everything for the brand.
Yes.
But did you
Well,
go to an agency first?
no, I did not. I went to a record company, actually, BMG, which was Sony back in the day. So that's actually working in-house for a brand, but I was fortunate enough that I just got to work on a whole bunch of different artists and acts. So I did that, and then I went to SVA and worked in-house for that brand. And then I went totally opposite, went to an agency that worked for a whole bunch of large companies. Coca-Cola was in particular probably the biggest client that we would work for constantly. So I made a career path, I think like my late 20s at this point. I decided to go off on my own. Instead of going into the agency path, which a lot of my colleagues at this branding agency did. And they all went on to, you know, running global gray planning and just, you know, major running IDO, just big stuff. But I ended up going into business with my wife, who is a phenomenal designer, ex-Martha Stewart. She's now an interior designer, because I did not dig the culture of so many people making decisions in a committee. So that was my personal preference. Again, you know, I mentioned the Harvard MBAs that would be sitting at the table with us, and there would be a conference room filled with like 15 to 20 people. And out of those people, there's probably 5 of them that are just like, I just want to put my mark on this because I can, you know. And it was just from a creative standpoint, I'm like, this is a drag. I don't want to do this anymore. That was my personal experience. Others, you know, they thrived in that environment of, you know, working in a hot shop that does really cool stuff, and you're surrounded by really creative, smart people. That is the regret that I have with my career path. There's so many interesting, great people and great times that I feel like I've missed because I did not go down the agency path. I would suggest starting out to probably not go in-house to a brand unless it's like a legendary brand that is of scale and you're going to be working with a caliber of people. Because if you work at a shop, an agency, you're obviously going to be seeing a lot more stuff. And, you know, you might discover that you're really into fashion or you're really into some technology or something like that. And you're going to be, there's more chances of exposure, I think, at an agency versus going in-house. That's my personal opinion, but.
Thank you so much. Isaiah has a question. It's going to be one last question. I'm going to step away for 1 minute while he asks and you answer, but I'm coming right back.
Okay.
I'm sure Isaiah has a great question. Okay, thanks.
So this is just totally out of curiosity, but like, if you hadn't gone into graphic design, are there, like, whether it be artistic or otherwise, are there any other fields you would have liked to get into?
I was seriously in 10th grade, I was on the fence of whether I was going to get into graphic design or architecture. And my math skills are strong. But, I really think it was, believe it or not, I think it was the courses that were offered to me at the time. It just kind of took me in the other direction. And as a graphic designer, when I became a graphic designer, I'm like, I'm going to retire when I'm 40 years old and make furniture in the woods in Connecticut, So I'm older than 40 and I do live in the woods in Connecticut and I have friends that make furniture, but I'm not doing that at this point. So yeah, it was always some kind of creative field that I would want to do. So what about you? What do you want to do?
I don't even know. That's a
Yeah.
big question.
And you're okay with that, right? I mean, again, I'm a freak. Most people your age, or even I have older kids. I'm going to date myself. I have 2 in college and 1 that's in high school. One of them is an economist, which makes sense for him. But the other ones, I don't know. They don't know. So.
Just gotta expose yourself, I guess, to figure it out.
Well, again, I guess the parting shot that I leave with all of you is no matter what it is that you do, at the end of the day, you do have to work. So, to find something that you have some passion for, it's just going to make your life so much better.
Right.
So
I agree.
I mean,
that's a great way to end it. Thanks,
yeah,
Kurt.
right on. Welcome. Well, thank you all so very, very much.
Thank you. Oh my
I'm really
gosh.
honored. Appreciate the time.
Well, we really appreciate it. I learned so much. I'm sure that they learned a lot. It was really fun to see you and see what you do. And it's so exciting to hear firsthand what a designer does, because a lot of these kids, whether they realize it or not, are going to end up being designers. So,
and it'll be okay.
And it will be okay. It's an amazing job. I'm a little bit envious. I love my job and it's a good fit for me, but I think that it would be really fun to be a designer too. Maybe when I retire.
Well, we should swap a little bit because I want to start to migrate towards what you do. Actually, yeah, sharing information that's helpful to people is very satisfying.
Yeah, right. It is. It's great. So it's great to work with people. So I thank you 1,000,000%.
Cool.
And my classes. Okay, Tuesday, people. Actually, if you want, you probably don't need to hear this.
Yeah, I'm going to leave. So everybody, again, nice meeting all of you. Be safe.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Have a good day.
You too. Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye. All right, bye-bye. Thank you.
Gonna go make art. See ya.
See you later.
Bye. Bye-bye.
But my class, don't hang up yet. Don't hang up yet. Don't. You guys are leaving. Don't leave yet. Wait. Stop. Okay. If you came to class on Tuesday. Wait, is he coming back in? Okay. If you came to class on Tuesday and you got the logo lesson and you're good, then you do not need to stay on. If you came to class this morning and you feel solid about your process and the logo design, you do not need to stay on. If you missed class and you have not heard the logo lesson, please stay. And there's also a good handful of people who did not come to, that are Thursday people that did not come to class this morning. Totally fine. Stay on, and I'm going to give you the logo lesson. Would it be helpful for anybody to meet up? Like, well, actually, let's just do this. Tomorrow I have office hours. And if you need help with your logo, or you want like a little feedback on the direction you're going with your logo, please come to the office hours. And if that time doesn't work for you, please email me, and I will email me, and we'll make a time, because I do want to make sure that you're on the right track and that you're happy with how your logo is going. Okay, does that sound good?
Bye, Miss Riley.
Okay, bye. If you've already had the lesson and you're good, have a good rest of your week. And
Thank you. You too.
yeah, thanks. Enjoy. Thanks for coming. Nice to see your faces. And if you haven't been here, then let's get on it. Does anybody need a little break?
I'm gonna leave now, so bye-bye.
You're gonna leave. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, bye. Okay, so the people who could be here should be here. Let me look at you in a gallery view so I can see you all. All right, so we have Isaiah is here, and Kira is here, and Olivia is here. Oh, I'm so confused. Do we have two Olivias?
No, so basically my camera on the computer doesn't work, so I have it on my phone, and then I'm watching everything on the computer, so it's a little
confusing. Okay. It's also really weird, but like I do recognize you, but without your mask on, like I almost didn't recognize you.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that weird? And then I'm like, wait, but there's two Olivias. Like it doesn't look like my Olivia, but like, is it her? I can't tell. This whole thing is very strange, right? Okay, so let's see. Tyler's here. Tyler and Olivia and Lake and Ariana and Rihanna and Gladys and Slippy. Oh, Prajna and Fariha and Maya. Okay. I don't know why some of the other people left. It's okay. All right. So, hi guys. Nice to see you. I mean, we have so much that we could talk about, but apparently we are going to be remote for a while. I don't know how long. I'm going to, I've been used to teaching in person. So today's lesson is like kind of geared, it was built to be in person, but it's going to be fine just showing you what we're doing because I have the PowerPoint and all of that. We're going to do some little sketches for our logo. Okay. But I think that I'm going to set up a system. Your classes are, I mean, technically you have art on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's been asynchronous on Tuesdays mostly because I've been teaching those days. But if I combine my classes, we might be able to do a little bit on each day, or we might start at a different time. It's not going to be like locked in, like our class is from 10:45 to 2:15. So we're gonna, I would like to have a guest speaker each week talking about like whatever it is that we're working on. So I haven't set that up yet, but I am kind of excited about the format of this, of being totally remote. So it might seem a little discombobulated today, but in the future, I think it's gonna be okay. And hopefully somehow the virus numbers will go down and we can go back in person, because I really do prefer to be in person, but that's not our option right now. So so it's okay. All right, I'm gonna share my screen, and I think if it's okay with you, okay, sorry. First, I want you to upload your I can't even talk today, sorry. Upload your mood board to the Padlet. And I think, well, we have people from the morning and the afternoon here, and that's okay. Just upload it to your Padlet and then we'll talk about it. In fact, I think, Kira, you're still here. You uploaded yours already. What I want you to do is we're going to talk about, tell us about your mood board for your own brand or for the product that you're selling. So some people are doing it about themselves. So tell us, you know, about which words you use to describe, like what words you use to get the feeling of your mood board. Describe what you chose and how you chose it. Also identify who your client is or your target audience. And then, you know, just tell us about like your color palette that you chose, or like about your fonts or why you chose those pictures. So that's what we're gonna do. So each person is gonna just tell us about their mood board, and we can start, if it's okay, Kara, I'm gonna start with you because I think I saw that yours is uploaded. So can you tell us a little bit about your mood board?
Yeah, let me, so wait, what do you want me to say? Just like my,
Like what are you selling? You're
oh, it's my brand.
Yeah, you're running yourself. Okay, so tell us like why you chose some of the images and the color palette and all that.
Well, I guess like I like black, red, and white as a color scheme. Like those are like my favorite colors. Even though it's like a darker color palette, I really like how it, I guess, comes together. It's targeted to, I guess, people who are, I guess, more mature, I guess. I made sure to use modern images and some graphic images to show playfulness and maturity. And I also, other than red, black, and white, I added like a light blue, kind of like a neon blue, to give like contrast to the dark background. Yeah. And what else? Oh, my fonts. I just went on a website and then picked the one that I guess spoke to me the most. I went with like, so on the left, middle-ish, where it says Sky, since that's my middle name, I use that, like, and then I guess it just went with the vibe the most, so I picked that. I also used, so I used Procreate for this, and there's like this cool feature that you can take a picture and create a color palette from it. So I just took a screenshot of the color palette and put it on. Other stuff, I put album covers, just things that I saw on Pinterest that I guess went with the concept. And yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. Like you totally got a vibe here. The colors, like they make it so cohesive, and it's really unique with the different fonts that you have in there. Yeah, I think that you're totally onto like a good role here. Does anybody have any comments about her mood board?
It's very cohesive.
Oh, thank you, Isaiah. Yeah, it is, right? The color mostly, and even the images are very like dark and mysterious. Anybody else have any comments? We I do want to hear comments from people, but we also have a little bit of a limited time here. So wait, is it Ariana or Rihanna?
Yeah.
Oh, Ariana.
Ariana.
Awesome. Ariana, can you tell us about your mood board?
So most of the images that I got are from this vintage fashion book from the 1940s that a family friend gave to me right here. And I got most of the inspiration from the, what is it? The, what is it called again? Just had a brain fart.
The inspiration
From the book to make this. I want to sell vintage clothing, vintage items. So I picked some makeup, some formal wear, I guess. My audience would be mostly for older, like 30s, 40s, anything around there, or anyone who appreciates that kind of fashion, I guess. And my color scheme, usually when I think of anything old, I think of like dulled down colors, not exactly bright colors. So I chose some dark greens and yellows, and yeah, brown.
Yeah, I think it's really cohesive, and I totally get like the mood that you've created here. I mean, I'm not like 100%, it's not 100% clear that you're selling vintage clothing, but I think that could be like easily remedied with just a few more pictures. And then also, so like I haven't seen your I haven't seen what you've posted on the Google Classroom, but make sure that there's probably going to be an extra like Word doc or something that tells me the fonts that you're going to use, like 2 contrasting fonts that make sense to your vintage, idea. And then it looks like your color palette is like yellows and purples and like this greenish color. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's great. And then your 20 words, like what are some of the words that you chose that's supposed to show here?
Some of the words I chose were like dull down colors. Hold up. I put elegant in the first like few trials, but then like something along those lines. I would have to find my list and go through it.